Well, I hope you have a great turnout, and I hope that event goes very well. I wish I could be down there with you. Okay, well, it looks like the recording has begun, and I would assume that that's my cue to
So
get
that is your cue. And so
All
again,
right.
thank you, Ken, for presenting this. For some of you who were on the presentation a couple of weeks ago by Ken, some of the information will be duplicate. We were unable to capture the recording, and we wanted to make this available to everyone. Please jump in and ask questions. And as always, if you have suggestions on things that you would like to hear or have us do, let us know. And on that note, Ken, take us away.
Kim, thank you so much, and thanks to each and every one of you for being with us this evening. I see that we have a great many folks with us who were not able to make it last time, so that is great stuff. As Kim said, this is some of this is new information. Some of it is repeat. We did want to get it on tape so that it could be or recorded rather, so that it could be provided for those who are unable to be with us. And so this is now being recorded. So we're going to start off by talking about reporting hours, and so we're going to move right into it. Now, there will be a section that we'll talk about uniforms, and we'll talk a little bit about uniforms as we go along as well. Okay, so as we're all aware, the partner program has a reporting requirement both into AUXDATA, as well as reporting your event summaries back to the admissions office. So we'll start off with the recruiting hours and public performance appearances and coordinating logistics for students, whether that's on Zoom or live in person, AIM missions, and so forth. Now, for the majority of those missions, as we all know, the current appropriate uniform is the blue blazer. So, okay, moving on. All right, so our mission code in AUXDATA for all of our partner missions is 90 Alpha, 90 Alpha. And we do, in fact, use the OPCON for the Coast Guard Academy for any mission that we perform that requires that mission code 90 Alpha. So please keep that in mind. Please make sure that you're using that OPCON. That OPCON allows the Coast Guard Academy to capture all of the hours that have been performed in support of the Academy. So please make sure that you enter that OPCON in for the Coast Guard Academy. And I have confirmed that through various sources, and that is the correct way to go about it. Okay, so the mission code 90 Alpha functions are all activities, all of the activities we perform, including online activities, whether it's Zoom or any of the other team type functions that we use electronically to keep in touch with one another and to work together. So 90 Alpha with the CGA OPCON is the appropriate OPCON. By the way, is my program working properly? Are the slides progressing as they should?
They're perfect, Ken.
Excellent, excellent. I finally broke down and purchased a new PowerPoint program, and I'm glad to hear that it's working. Okay. So interviews again, when we talk about interviews, there's quite a bit of work that goes into these interviews. You know, the preparation time, the interview itself, and the report to the Academy. And the report to the Academy can often be pretty extensive. And so the average hours that we're using to conduct interviews is 5. Now, you may run over that a little bit, or you may use a little less, whatever the case might be. But 5 is pretty much the average. If you get too far out of line, with respect to that 5 hours, though, somebody might question you. So just be prepared to write in your comments on AUXDATA, exactly why you use the hours that you use to conduct the interview. Excuse me. Next, we have college fairs. The standard time we use on college fairs is about 2 hours, but certainly college fairs can run over 2 hours. They can run as much as 4 hours, depending on the type of college fair. Sometimes there are multiple school events, and those events where they're bringing students in from other schools in the area certainly do run over up to 4 hours. So again, explain in the comments in AUXDATA. Personally, I explain everything that I do, regardless of whether it's the appropriate number of hours or it's over. I always explain exactly what I did when I perform a mission. And that's not only for the IS officer or the Coast Guard Academy, that's for me, because I often have to look back into my AUXDATA records to remember exactly what I was doing on that particular mission. So it's a good way to keep track of your time. Again, these are all 90 Alpha missions, and they all do require the OPON. Appointment presentations. Currently, the uniform for appointment presentations is the blue blazer or just a business suit, men's or women's, whatever you feel is appropriate. But we are not, as of today, authorized to wear a Coast Guard uniform when making appointment presentations. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get closer to the end of this presentation, but the official word, the official rule today is that we are wearing formal business attire or a blue blazer. I like to wear my blue blazer with my Coast Guard Academy tie. So everyone has their own personal preferences with respect to appointment presentations. Presentations run 1 to 3 hours, depending on where you happen to be placed in the order of the presentations for the high school that's making the presentations, and how many presentations they have to make. Some schools go on, and there are a lot of awards because they have a lot of great kids, and so you could easily be there 3 hours, you could easily be there 4 hours. So again, explain what you've done in the comments on AUXDATA. Leave no questions. And again, the OPCON is appropriate because it is a 90 Alpha mission. Same thing with high school visits. High school visits usually take up to an hour. A lot of people complain about the high school visits. They can't get in. They have trouble getting past the guidance secretary. Well, that's often true. The guidance secretaries are often a pain. They're kind of the gatekeeper. They don't want to let you in. So when you call and you try and make an appointment, they'll often not be willing to help you find the time, or help the counselor find the time to meet with you. So I've adopted a strategy that I call the walk-in. I just kind of show up and I get in through the office with a bag full of information, and I tell the guidance secretary I'm here to drop off some information, but if anyone has time to meet with me, I'd be happy to meet with one of your counselors. And 9 times out of 10, I end up meeting with someone. And even when I don't, I get a email address that I use to follow up with those counselors. And I often get an invitation to come back when I do that. I can tell you that since I've moved to Ohio, I've conducted quite a number of high school visits here, and I've only had one where I was not successful in meeting a counselor. So you get a pretty good record in Ohio. Again, high school visits usually run about an hour. Mission code is 90 alpha, and we do use this CGA OpCon for that. Okay, congressional events. Same thing. Congressional events are a great opportunity for us to meet some great students, even though the Coast Guard Academy does not require congressional appointments or congressional nominations, rather. When the Congress people set up these events, and they typically invite us to come out and be a part, and we have an opportunity to meet with those students and share with them what the Coast Guard Academy has to offer. We also have an opportunity to make a presentation for all the folks that are in attendance at these events. So it's a great opportunity to at least show some students who are already well qualified for the Coast Guard Academy that they have some alternatives. And maybe it works every once in a while that somebody who was targeted for another branch decides to come over to the Coast Guard Academy instead. So again, 90 alpha is the appropriate mission code, and we do use the OpCon for congressional events. Congressional office visits, not quite the same thing, but we do like to drop in and say hello to our representatives in Congress. We rarely get to meet with a representative when we do a drop-in like that. We'll meet with the staff person. They like to know who the local people are in the congressperson's district, and so these visits are advisable. You can call if you want, but again, I just think the drop-in is so much easier, and you're usually guaranteed to meet with somebody there. And once you're on their radar, they are going to send you information about any events that are coming up that the congressperson is hosting or sponsoring. So usually don't spend more than an hour in a congressman's office. I would say usually a little less than that, but as you all know, on the event summary that we submit for the Coast Guard Academy, an hour is the minimum we can actually put on the event summary. 90 alpha and CGA OpCon. Okay, so we're also using the 90 alpha code when we're working with the JROTC and Scouts. So all of these presentations or enlistment and commissioning presentations are reportable as 90 alpha, unless in fact you're qualified in some other program. And we know from our last presentation, Bruce Talbot told us that unless you're qualified as an enlisted recruiter and qualified to be working in a recruiting office, you should not be using the mission hour code 90 Bravo. 90 Bravo is specifically used by people who hold that qualification as enlisted recruiter, qualified enlisted recruiter. So any of these events that you participate in as a partner, please use the mission code 90 alpha with the CGA OpCon. The standard hours for these events can run anywhere from 1 to 2 hours. And again, you're going to explain your comments in AUXDATA. Boat shows, it's very beneficial for us to present at boat shows. we're waving the flag and getting information out into the public's hands. Oftentimes, parents and students who are interested in boating attend these boat shows, and they just might be interested in applying for the Coast Guard Academy or AIM. So it's good to be out at these boat shows if you enjoy that kind of thing, to pass information about the Coast Guard Academy. The standard for the boat shows, usually a watch at a boat show is 4 hours. Some people end up staying all day. Whatever works for you. Make sure you explain in your comments, use the mission code 90 Alpha and the CGA OPCON. The state coordinators, it's important for the state coordinators to get their time reported every month, the time that they use working in support of the Coast Guard Academy, for coordinating all the efforts that we, the partners, are performing in their states. And so again, the partners coordinator does in fact use 90 Alpha, all state coordinators, and it's thought that they usually use about 5 hours a month on average. Now, that's not to say that you can't go over that. Some coordinators have more work than others. Some states are busier than others for whatever reason. But just again, make sure you explain your monthly hours in your reports, and have a reference that you can go back to. So again, 90 Alpha and the CGA OPCON. Board meetings, if you are a member of the partner board, those partner boards usually last 1 to 2 hours. They can be online or in person, and we're using the mission code 90 Alpha and also the CGA OPCON for those board meetings. Okay, always a lot of questions about Zoom contacts. Well, Zoom contact are just like being in the same room. If you perform the mission on Zoom that you would otherwise have performed in person, such as meeting with a potential candidate, such things can run as long as 1 to 2 hours, and the appropriate mission code is 90 Alpha, and you would use the CGA OPCON for that event. Okay, so training missions now are a little different. The mission code for tonight for you as a trainee is 99 Delta. 99 Delta, that is the appropriate training mission code to use in AUXDATA. This presentation will take an hour, and the OPCON is not used. So you'll, or no OPCON change is necessary. You'll just leave it on your district OPCON. Whatever district you're in appears in AUXDATA when you open up the page, and the only time you change that is if you are working in support of a particular agency or unit that has an OPCON listed in AUXDATA. You would then change it. The Coast Guard Academy is an example of that. If you were working in support of the Coast Guard Academy, you would simply change the OPCON to CGA. Okay, so, but never for training. 99 Delta does not require a change. This is a district OPCON. When you're participating in online presentations or trainings, a uniform is not required. So that's a little different than some of the directions from the districts. Some of the districts do require uniforms for all meetings. The Coast Guard Academy has not required us to wear uniforms for online meetings. Okay, 99 Echo. 99 Echo covers all of your travel and your prep. So travel, preparation, the time that you use entering time into AUXDATA, all of this should be entered separately with the code 99 echo. 99 echoes use the default OPCON. As I said before, your district, whatever your district is, will appear as the default. So all of those activities that are not otherwise covered as a mission, such as travel and preparation time and so forth, that will all be covered as 99 echo. No change to the OPCON. Use the default. Okay, mission planning codes. All right, so planning committees and so forth. This one we've gone back and forth on, but I think that we've zeroed in on the fact that it's a 99 echo code for planning committees. So if you're working on planning committees or participating in training, you're or doing training of some type, you're going to use 99 echo. There's no change to the OPCON. And yes, you do pool your hours. So this is one of the 5 mission hour codes that requires that we pool the hours. It's not actually called a mission hour code. It's called a member activity code. All the 99 codes are known as member activity codes. And so the member activity codes can be pooled. You can keep track of all the hours that you perform for travel, preparation, planning committees, things of that nature. And at the end of the month, put in one mission hour code that covers all of those 99 echo hours. The same with 99 Delta, Charlie, Bravo, and 99 Alpha. 99 Alpha, for those of us who are officers at any level, is the most common code that we use for all of the other duties that we perform that are not covered by a separate mission code. Okay, so the mission code as a trainer, you would use 06 Bravo. So if you're an instructor providing training tonight, I'm providing training for this presentation, and so I will be putting my hours in as 06 Bravo because I provided this training, and I will use the CGA OPCON with the 06 Bravo code because I'm doing this training in support of the Coast Guard's mission. No uniform is required, as I said before. However, if you want to wear your polo shirt or your blue blazer or whatever, you know, for auxiliary only meetings, trainings, I should say, you certainly can be wearing your tropical blues or BUs, but again, that's for auxiliary member only meetings. So if it's a partner meeting that involves partners outside of the auxiliary, you should wear the polo shirt or no uniform. If it's an auxiliary only meeting, you can wear your tropical blue uniform for training missions. Okay. And look at this good looking pair here. So two of our finest members in the partner corps. We're very proud of John and Carol Johnson, and those of us who've had the great good fortune of working with these two people.
Oh, John, come here.
Hi, Carol.
Hi.
You're both just such a pleasure, Carol, and it's just such an honor to get to work together with you. I'll tell you, the highlight of my early career when I first joined the Coast Guard Auxiliary and got involved in what was then known as the Career Counselor Program was the opportunity to get to fly out to Hoffman Estates near Chicago, Illinois, and spend a weekend under the tutelage of John and Carol Johnson, and learned everything that I came to know from John and Carol. We had a wonderful weekend. Oh boy, what was the name of that place, Carol? Medieval Times.
Right, that was it.
Yeah, you took us to a medieval times presentation and dinner, and we just had the best time, and it was a great fellowship event. And I hate to say it, Carol, but it was 1998. That's
Oh, wow.
1998. So, and we've gone from career counselors to partners in that time, and you and John are just still doing the greatest work, and we're all just in awe of you, and so proud to be a part of your wonderful team. So thanks for all you do.
Well, thank you.
Thank
Hey,
you.
John, there you are.
Yes, I am here.
I'm glad you're there. I'm glad.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's
It's
here.
always
He
good.
just went in
Always
to
good
get
to hear your voice. You and Carol both.
Well,
So
thank you for the recognition. That's really
a-
terrific.
Yeah, it really,
Well-
Ken, it really means a lot. So great to see you and great to be a part of listening to your presentations that you've done recently, plus the one today. So keep
Thank
it the
you.
good work.
see, this is the product of all of your good work. Thank you for all that you've done for me.
Okay, you're
Alrighty.
welcome.
Okay. If you haven't met John and Carol yet, you should. They're two of the greatest people in the program. All right, at the end of each mission, as you will recall, we do have to submit an event summary. This is extremely important to the Coast Guard Academy and to us as an organization. I think it's important that we get these event summaries in. So don't forget, you have more work to do after you put your hours into AUXDATA. The summary requires you to put in the name of the event, and its date, the location of the event and how long it was, the miles that you had to drive to get there. Very important, the student attendees, the percentage of students that were minorities, what grade levels they were, whether they were seniors or juniors, sophomores, freshmen. Sometimes we meet with junior high students, and that's a pretty good thing sometimes, because it's good for students who might be thinking about college in a service academy in the 7th or 8th grade, that it would be good for them to know that they're going to have to engage in courses that involve higher level math and sciences in order to be successful at the Coast Guard Academy. So it's good to get that word out to younger students early, so that they have time to prepare with their high school counselors to ensure that they're taking the proper curriculum. Nothing worse than becoming a senior and all of a sudden having a desire to go to a military academy, and you've taken the technical track in high school. Very, very hard to move over and get into a service academy at that point. So for most high schools or high school graduates, if you will, we have the opportunity to talk about the other alternative programs that are accession methods to become an officer, such as C-SPI and OCS, the Officer Candidate School, and direct commissioning programs. So that's always an opportunity as well, and the Coast Guard Academy certainly wants to hear about that if you do meet with any of those students at that level. They also want to know how you would rate the overall quality of students at a particular high school, because that tells them whether or not they should continue to spend resources going back and visiting that high school. So your comments down below are always very important. If you are to a high school, whether it's for a college fair or just a high school visit, it's important to put in the name and contact information for the counselor that you met with, in case you can't get back there again for whatever reason. The academy will know how to contact or who to contact at that particular high school. So pretty important stuff.
Ken, can I stop you right here? We have a couple of comments that might be good to answer right now.
Sure, absolutely.
One is, was the question is, how long has 5 hours been average for the interviews?
Yeah, so 5 hours for interviews. Okay, let's go back to interviews.
Yeah, the question is how long
Oh,
has
right,
that
right.
been the average?
So yeah, I'm not sure who established that, whether it was Tim Kessel or Alex. I don't remember when that 5 hour standard was established. But again, that's an average. That's an average. There's a lot that goes into interviews. You know, some people could use 5 hours just writing the interviews based on the quality of the candidates that we get to applying to the Coast Guard Academy. So again, don't feel intimidated by these suggested hours. They were given to us as just that, suggestions. There's no reason you can't use less or exceed the 5 hours. We're just urging you to get that information into your comments, both in the general comments on your event summary, as well as the comment section on your AUXDATA report.
Okay, this is a question, and I think that I answered it, but I may be wrong. And one of the questions was, so is 90A limited to only those auxiliaries with AAP qualifications?
90.
The 90 alpha code that we put in for admission partner activities?
It is not.
It's not.
It is not.
Okay, so I did answer wrong.
Yeah, it is not. AUXDATA, because it wasn't set up originally for members to have this qualification in order to use 90 alpha, it does not, AUXDATA does not prevent members from using 90 alpha if they're not listed as an AAP partner in AUXDATA. And I know this because I work with a variety of people. I'm working with a gentleman right now in my flotilla. His name's Glenn Harmon, and Glenn has gone to a college fair with me. He's gone to some high school events, and he in fact has hours in AUXDATA under 90 alpha. So it's a little different than what Bruce Talbot has told us about the enlisted side. For those who don't know Bruce is the I think the division chief for enlisted recruiting over in human resources, and he's very involved in those activities. And he's shared with us on the last presentation that in fact for people who are working on enlisted recruiting, in order to use 90 Bravo, they have to have the qualification. Not true of, at least at this point, it's not true for people supporting the admissions office, but not yet qualified as a partner.
Okay, another question. Can you clarify, and this is probably going to be different from division and district to district, but instructions from IS people has lately been that unless we are out of the house on a mission, all is prep and 99E. For example, as a state coordinator, hours spent on contacting partners and congressional point of contact for an upcoming event are 99E. That is not what I understand from this evening's presentation. It seems that 90A is more appropriate for those.
No, that's 99 Echo is the appropriate. If I said something that led people to believe that 99 Alpha is appropriate. I did not mean to do that. 99 Alpha is only appropriate in those cases where, so the only time we would use that is if in fact you're an officer in the
No,
national.
so I'm saying 90 alpha, not 99 alpha.
Oh, okay, all right.
So for example, state coordinator hours should be 90 alpha. They shouldn't be 99 echo.
Oh, that's
okay?
correct. Yes.
And
yes,
the same
yes.
thing goes, you don't have to be going out of the house, especially with Zoom contacts. Those are all 90 alpha. And so if your IS people are
that's
saying
correct.
that you have to be going out of the house on a mission, that is not the case.
No, your
And
mission.
anyway,
I'm sorry, Kim.
you go ahead.
No. Okay, yeah, so when you're doing a Zoom presentation with a candidate for the Coast Guard Academy or a high school counselor that's too far away for you to go visit, you live in Cheyenne and you want to talk to a counselor in Denver, and you don't want to have to drive all the way down to Denver to do that, and you agree to meet on Zoom, that's a mission. That's a 90 Alpha mission, and that requires a CGA OPCON. So any mission that you perform in support of the Coast Guard Academy, whether it's a Zoom mission online or a mission that you go out and perform live, it's still a mission and it's still 90 Alpha.
Okay, and then the final question, and then we can go on to the rest of the presentation.
Sure.
And I think I know the answer to this one, but is it still acceptable for auxiliaries to use Form 7029 to report hours? And I'd say absolutely.
Of course, yeah. So 7029 is a mission activities form. And so if you're not yet capable of entering your own hours into AUXDATA, then yes, in fact, you can use the 7029 form, the mission or member activity form, fill it out and fill out the totals for your month and send that on to your flotilla staff officer for information services, the FSOIS. And they will then enter those hours for you.
Okay, you can, those are the questions for right now, and let's move on.
There's one other thing I want to add to that, as I think. I'm sorry, Kim.
No, go ahead.
So this person who's entering the 7029 form, the member activities form for 99 Echo, for instance, if you are also performing missions in support of the Coast Guard Academy, remember that you must then fill out a 7030 form, and that 7030 form is where you will enter the activity that you performed under 90 Alpha, and that form will then be submitted to your FSOIS, your flotilla staff officer for information services, for him or her to enter those hours for you. So those forms do still exist; they are still in use, and they're used by those who are not yet entering their own hours into AUXDATA.
So there's actually one more question, and this is somebody who has to leave.
Okay.
And they have a flotilla meeting in a few minutes, leaving early. They had an event last Saturday where they were staffing a table and promoting the academy as well as the auxiliary. In these cases, we are supposed to wear tops for the auxiliary, but we are still promoting the academy. And that person has a similar 2-day event coming up over Memorial Day weekend. Should they not be promoting the academy with TROPS or ODUs on?
So here's what I say, right? It's an auxiliary event. You're there promoting the auxiliary. If you happen to have Coast Guard Academy information available and somebody asks you about the Coast Guard Academy, There is no reason that you should not talk to that person and provide them with information. I would, however, tell them that it would be more appropriate for me to schedule a meeting with you so that I can talk with you more in depth about the Coast Guard Academy. And when you do meet with that person outside of this event that you're involved in, you should wear the polo shirt.
And
Was that clear?
Yes, and someone had the same question working at a boat show booth where they promoted the auxiliary, the academy, and the Coast Guard.
Sure.
And again, the
Sure.
question comes about uniform.
So, yeah, I think it's very important to promote the Coast Academy at any event that we are working at as members of the auxiliary. Now, the boat show slide that we show in this presentation shows 3 members that are wearing their partner uniform, their polo shirts, but that table is specifically a Coast Guard Academy table with a Coast Guard Academy tablecloth, if you notice that. And so that's a little different. We have a lot of other events, boat shows, air shows, open houses, and things of that nature, where we're only going to have an auxiliary table, and we're going to promote the Coast Guard Auxiliary, but we might have some other information there about the Coast Guard Academy and about Coast Guard enlisted recruiting. We definitely should get that information out to the public, but we should not be spending time representing ourselves in the capacity of a partner at that particular event. You could give them the information and schedule a time and a place to meet to talk more about the Coast Guard Academy in a more appropriate setting than a boat show. And so, yeah, it's the same thing as I said before about the event that the other member was working on. Sure, you and your shipmates are going to wear your Coast Guard Auxiliary uniform to that event, whether ODUs or Tropical Blues. Hand them the information, get their contact information, give them a follow-up call, and get together. And when you do, wear your polo shirt.
Yeah, I think that was it for questions right now.
Okay. All right, great. All right, so we are moving on. All right, so we talk about a basic good year. So what is a basic good year? Well, the Coast Guard Academy would like to see partners performing at least 20 hours of service a year. 20 hours can be 4 events, 5 events, 6 events, whatever. Those hours must be recorded in AUXDATA and recorded in the Bears Den separately, obviously, the event summary report. And reports are verified in the Bears Den and in AUXDATA. And that report mechanism is done by Tim Kessel at the Coast Guard Academy and Kim Isaacs, our division chief for member services, who's on with us tonight. So they do that verification periodically, and there are a lot of reasons that they do that, one of which is awards for our members. So so just make sure you get those hours in. Now, one of the things that people have concerns about is the fact that they live too far away from a local high school. The high school in their local area has closed up, and so they have no way to communicate. Well, there's always a way to communicate. If you're unwilling to drive a little bit to go to a high school, well, that's understandable, and that's okay. Reach out to that high school, make an appointment to talk to a counselor, make that contact, ask if you can get some information into the school, ask if they're willing to do a contact on Zoom. Contacts on Zoom, as we've already said, certainly count. We're really connected electronically in our world today. So all of these hours do count, and all of the hours that you use talking to students or counselors or congressional offices, all of that stuff counts. And so, and let me just emphasize that basic annual requirements and a basic good year are just, for our own kind of internal program. We don't have a required number of hours that partners have to participate every year. A lot of auxiliary programs, such as operations and galley work and so forth, require 12 hours of interaction a year to stay qualified. And well, we don't currently have that qualification in the partners program. So you don't have to get 12 hours or 20 hours a year into AUXDATA. We just say that it's a basic good year when you can do at least this much to contribute to this amazing program that we're all a part of. So just want to make that clear. Okay. Any other questions on our hours? Okay. So as we've gone through this presentation, we've talked about hours, but as you can see, we've showed a lot of different uniforms and people wearing those uniforms, right? And we get a lot of questions about uniforms and when is it appropriate to wear a uniform and what type of uniform can we wear? Well, for a few years now, we've worn the polo shirt and the blue blazer with a pair of khaki pants. And it's worked out well for us, but there are still events that we would like to have the opportunity to wear an auxiliary uniform, okay? And we want you to know tonight that there are discussions ensuing right now as we speak between the admissions office and our leaders in the Student Programs Directorate. And so we're going to go through that. So in the Coast Guard enlisted recruiting side, there are established parameters that our members must follow in order to become qualified enlisted recruiters. And those qualifications are found in the Coast Guard Auxiliary Manual. So the proposal that's being floated in order to enable Coast Guard auxiliary partners who are also members of the Coast Guard Auxiliary, the proposal that's being worked on would have members of the Coast Guard Auxiliary following the same standards that are for partners as are already listed in the Coast Guard Auxiliary Manual for enlisted recruiter qualification. So we're going to go through that right now. The first qualification requirement is regarding height and weight. So we would have to meet the Commandant's height and weight standards. Now, I haven't put anything into tonight's presentation about height and weight because that fluctuates. There are different standards in effect today than were in effect a year ago. And so what we're saying here is that once the policy is approved, if it gets approved, then we'll determine what the current height and weight standards or body mass index requirements are according to the Commandant, and we will publish that in whatever document will be promulgated with respect to this policy. So grooming, the grooming will meet the Commandant's grooming and uniform appearance standards. Again, we will define that once we have approval for wearing the uniform. And so again, This is the very basic language that exists in the Coast Guard Auxiliary Manual now, but it refers back to the Commandant's instruction. We will have to see what the current Commandant's instruction requires before we can publish that. So partner training, one of the requirements will be that members will have to have completed the partner training, and if permission to begin wearing a Coast Guard auxiliary uniform for limited events such as appointment presentations, then you will have to be trained up on the proper wearing of the uniform before and be properly qualified as a partner before you'll be authorized to do that. Next, you'll already have to be working in support of the admissions staff. Okay, so be actively working in support of the Academy Admissions Office and receive a positive recommendation from the National Student Programs Directorate. Now, what we've been told is that certain branches or a branch, I should say, within the National Student Services, National Student Programs Directorate will be assigned the responsibility of reviewing each member, each part applies to wear the uniform, to wear the auxiliary uniform, and they will be charged with the responsibility of providing a positive recommendation based upon the standards that are established if the program is approved. Okay. All right. And so the directorate staff that I just referred to, the branch that will be working on this, is going to request a full front and profile photograph of every auxiliary member and a short narrative supporting the request. So you'll have to write to the Student Services Directorate staff, and you'll be provided with a contact for that purpose. And the staff will then authorize in writing for the auxiliarist to wear the partner's badge and to wear the appropriate uniform. Okay, and the auxiliary will then notify the member's district director that you've received such authorization. And then finally, there'll be an annual review. So the list of authorized personnel will be provided to the admissions office once each year, right? During the academic year, which coincides with the recruiting season. Every recruiting season starts in the fall, the end of August, and runs through June. And so, you know, we'll be reviewing the list each year. And once the list is updated, it will be provided back to the admissions office, indicating that you have been approved for another year. So that's all we have tonight on uniforms. I can tell you again, it's an ongoing process, and the team is working hard to get this done. I say the team, but it's mostly the efforts of our national director, Jean Marie McNamara, who's very committed to getting this done. She believes very strongly in it, and we are going to keep you updated through our future presentations. So that's all I have for you tonight. Kim, are there any additional questions that folks have?
Yes, there are a couple of additional things, and one was that you've mentioned OBCON several times. Can you explain
Yes.
exactly what that is? And
So
go ahead.
Okay, let me answer that quickly. Let's go back to the very beginning. And so on this page, this is the actual page in AUXDATA where you enter your hours. Can you see my pointer, Kim?
I can see your pointer.
Okay, And so when you look over here on the right side, you can see this is the mission code. The mission code is 90 Alpha, and it'll say Coast Guard Partners Program. So you're going to click on this down arrow, find the 90 Alpha Coast Guard Partners Program, and click on that, and it will appear in this box. And then you go over to the left side and you'll see your unit up here, whatever your flotilla's name is, will appear in this box. This unit is Lorraine. It's located in Lorain, Ohio. It's flotilla number 920604, Lorain, Ohio. And so below that is what's known as the OPCON. When you open up AUXDATA, when you open up this page, that is automatically populated with your district. So for me, when I open this page in my AUXDATA, it says 9th Eastern. So in order to change that, I have to click on this X. That'll make that box disappear, and you'll get a drop-down menu, but you'll also have a little search box there. And what I do, I immediately enter CGA, and it limits my options. It gives me, I think there are 2 CGA OPCONs. I click on the top one, CGA, U.S. Coast Guard Academy. That is the OPCON. That is how you enter it. And it should be entered for any mission where you're using the 90 Alpha mission code.
Okay, thank you. The next is, this is easy. I can answer this. Where can you see this presentation for future reference? We are going to send out a link to the presentation. And then another one is, how do partners who are not auxiliary report their hours? Well, they're not reporting through AUXDATA 2, they're reporting directly into the Bearsden account.
Right, they use the event summary reports that we also use. They only have one mechanism, we have 2.
Then someone mentions, which I think this is a really, really good point, and this is Mr. Green says, as a former Army healthcare recruiter, I can see pros and cons to wearing a uniform, the dress uniform. Potentially applicants see a uniform they think enlisted recruiter. Polos are less threatening to high school youth and their parents. And I think that that's probably the case.
I don't disagree with that. Some people are very adamant that they would like to be able to wear their uniforms for any mission. Others are would be, satisfied with wearing the uniform for appointment presentations. And I think for the appointment presentations, personally, I feel that it does make the student or the appointee feel good about himself if someone in uniform is making the presentation, particularly because usually the other branches have somebody looking sharp in their uniform at these events when they make the presentation.
Yes, and
so,
we're actually looking, at least in terms of initiating this, for service academy events and for appointment presentations, and hopefully, you know, we can go beyond that at some point, but that's what we're really pushing for right now. Then this goes back to just a clarification, and the person has been told to put their travel and prep hours as 99A. Do I understand that these hours should be 99E?
They are 99 Echo. If you read the descriptions for travel and prep, if you read the descriptions on each of the member activity codes, 99 Alpha is specifically limited to duties performed as an officer, a Coast Guard auxiliary officer. So if you are an officer on the national staff performing the national staff functions in support of the academy, then 90 Alpha could be the correct member activity code to use, but no one else should be using that for partner activity. When you perform a partner mission, you are performing support for the United States Coast Guard. All right, the Coast Guard Academy is an entity of the United States Coast Guard. So when you perform a support function for the United States Coast Guard, it is covered under 99 Echo. And that description is very clear in the description for these 5 member activity codes. So I would be delighted to speak with any flotilla staff officer or division staff officer for information services who feels differently.
All right. I think on that note, I want to be cognizant of people's time. It's 9
Sure.
o'clock, so it's an hour. Certainly, if you have any other questions, shoot Ken or myself an email. I probably won't know the answers, but Ken will, and I will reach out if I don't know, if I can't answer your questions. Again, we will be sending out the link to this, and if you have folks that are partners that you want to share the link with, please do. We'd like to get this information out to anybody who wants it. And if there are other things that you would like to see, please let us know. And again, thank you, Ken, for an excellent presentation. And
Pleasure.
I will send you the link as soon as I get it off my computer.
Perfect. Thanks everyone for being with us